Thanks for coming tonight, and what a great crowd we've got to commemorate the Battle of Franklin. You know, this month we've had daily reminders with the many events that we've had that help us commemorate this battle. And one thing that's been very touching to me this year, and I think maybe to many of you, is that we've also brought to life many of the people that were around at that time with the banners that you've seen in the community. And we've heard those stories about the people before the battle occurred and how they were anticipating a significant event with severe horror and actually the fear of the unknown. And even with all that pre-battle anticipation that occurred, I think probably the battle quickly exceeded all the fears that they had in those 5 hours that ensued. But I also want us to raise attention not only to those Americans that died in the Battle of Franklin, but also there were other human stories afterwards of people that were maimed permanently, people that were blind, people that lost limbs. So it just wasn't an event that occurred and then was immediately over. But it was a significant event to our country, where not only did we become the United States of America, and also a country where everyone is free. So it has significance to all of us every single day.
Obviously have a number of Confederate reenactors and local folks who are coming down from Winstead Hill, and a number of Union reenactors and some local folks coming up from Fort Granger. They'll be meeting in this area about 4:30 to 4:40. So if you'd like to wait around for that, you can, or you can come to Carnton. And then as darkness descends, you will see luminaries, some right behind the house, some along the road, some on the east side of Columbia Pike, in some of the areas where there was incredibly heavy fighting on this day 150 years ago. For those of you who have seen the luminaries previously, you might notice there's a bit of a difference with the luminaries, especially here this year. There is no pattern. They're arbitrarily placed. And you'll see them in many locations, some in heavier concentrations than in others. And that was intentional, because there was no pattern to the casualties on November 30th, 1864. And because these luminaries are in a reminder of the individual casualties of the battle, that is the design that we set upon in the Columbia Pike corridor for this year. What you will see at Carnton is the very typical, orderly, sort of square block illumination. There are also luminaries at Collins Farm to Lewisburg, but you'll see the luminaries there along the railroad tracks and stretching down through the low ground, where so many Confederate soldiers were killed and wounded on this day 150 years ago. And that is, of course, why we are all here. What happened here 150 years ago, almost to the moment. I think most everyone who's here has some basic, if not extensive, knowledge of the battle. But this is a moment, as someone just asked me, for everyone to reflect on what happened here, once again. As we do every year, this is a special anniversary. I think that's very obvious. But we commemorate this battle every year. And many of us commemorate this battle, and those who fought here, every day. Both sides. Because they were all Americans. And what began to play out here at 4 o'clock was really one of the last significant battles, one of the last great visual spectacles of this long war. As we go about tonight and look at the luminaries and visit the sites, the homes open up at 9:30, free to the public until 9 o'clock, and you walk through and you see how the families like the Carters and the McGavicks were impacted by this battle. Think about what was happening just before the battle began 150 years ago. This country was dying. There were over 600,000 soldiers who had already died. And there was no sure answer about how the war was going to conclude. I have been asked a number of times over the last few weeks, why is Franklin important, or is Franklin important? It is important. Because no one knew when or how this war was going to end. But what most people did know, North and South, was there was death and destruction on a wide scale. And the United States of America that Mayor Moore just mentioned in some ways was dying. Not just the Confederate States of America, which was moving toward a defeat, but the United States of America was also on the verge of dying. And that reason alone makes Franklin important, as well as the war in its entirety. Again, most of you know the details of the battle. It starts at 4, it's mostly over by 9. The casualties are tremendous. Nearly 10,000. Nearly 2,500 dead, some 7,000 wounded, 10 times the population of this little tiny town. Almost 1,000 missing. Think about this. Today there are 55 to 60,000 people that live in Franklin. 70,000. 60,000 soldiers descended on this town in 12 hours. Nearly the population of the town today. And they were all crammed into an area from here south. And by the time it was over 10,000 of them lay on the fields or were being carted away as a prisoner. In some ways, Franklin, like other communities during this war, and other communities and other wars and other places, never really did recover. It just went on. But they remembered it. They didn't forget it. They struggled with the memories of it, but they didn't forget it. The Carters never did. The McGavicks never did. Many other citizens of this town never forgot it either. As the Lotz family traveled west to California, I'm sure they never forgot it. Soldiers who were here, who survived it, never forgot it. It was later generations who forgot it. And look at the progress we have made in the last 10 years to reclaim this story, to pull it out of the murk and mire of history and put it back in its rightful place. To put it back in its rightful place on a national scale. It is not just a Southern story. It is not just a Northern story. This is an American story about what was happening to us 150 years ago. All one has to do is walk across the street and see demolition occurring and battlefield reclamation happening every day. Nearly 200 acres of the battlefield have been saved in the last decade, and through the efforts of so many organizations, the city, the Civil War Trust, the Heritage Foundation, the Carter House, Carnton, the Sons of Confederate Veterans, the Sons of Union Veterans. The list goes on and on and on and on. The citizens of this town, the citizens of this county, the citizens of this state, and the citizens of this country actually care about this story. Because the story is about us. And it's not always pretty. Sometimes it's downright ugly, bloody, and nasty. But it deserved all along to be remembered. And so as you walk around and you see the battlefield re-emerging from underneath asphalt and concrete and cinder blocks and apathy, and favoritism, you will see a true story emerge to never again be lost to time. Never again will Franklin be a second-rate battle that most historians had forgotten about. It will regain its rightful place, and I would say that the crowd tonight and the crowd last year, and the crowd 5 years ago, and those who have gone through the homes, and the crowds that will show up next year and years from now will be testament that this story has a deep resonance with people from all across the country and all walks of life. And let us not ever forget what happened here on November 30th, 1864. Thank you very much.